Okay, so I hope that my audio is okay because I don't have anyone in here. Today it's it's casual arting, and that basically means we're going to just kind of slide into talking about, digital art and some basic exercise and not stress about it and just kind of, doodle and have fun. And over time, with enough of these, maybe build up some art skills. Now, I have done digital art for a long time, but it's not been my profession. It's not been even like a steady thing that I've done. It's been very sporadic. And so I wouldn't call myself a professional artist. I wouldn't even call myself like a an experienced artist in any way. I just dabbled. I'd like to get a little bit more out of this skill set, and so this is why I'm kind of doing this. So yeah, digital art and digital painting. What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about creating, illustrations, concept art, uh, and just artwork in general, using digital tools such as Photoshop. There are other programs out there. I'm not really going to go into those because I've never used them. I've used Photoshop, and I actually have the Adobe Cloud subscription, and I believe you can get Photoshop for a pretty reasonable price there. It may seem expensive, but trust me, compared to how much Photoshop used to cost, it is it's like a revolution how cheap it is now. And I also have a Microsoft Surface Book, and that's what I use to do my that's basically has like a touch screen on it, and it has a stylus that it comes with, and that's what I use to interface with Photoshop. I would suggest, if you're thinking about seriously pursuing digital painting, digital art, that you look into getting some kind of tablet interface, particularly with a pressure sensitive stylus, uh, to really get the most bang for your buck when it comes to Photoshop for digital art. You can do a lot with a mouse. I actually used a mouse um, for most of the time that I did artwork. And it's okay. You can do stuff, but you're just gonna take a lot longer to get the same effect. So, like, if you're trying to do like a line that kind of changes in opacity or changes in tapers off at the end, that kind of thing is going to take you a lot longer with a mouse. Especially if you have a lot of those, then it will take you with a stylus. It's going to be way like instant with a stylus. Um, and yeah, so Photoshop and a tablet are basically um, the sort of investments that you kind of have to make to really get into digital art. And yeah, I'd say if you don't have those, you could try following along with just the pen and paper, for the little bits of doodling and noodling that we're going to do today. You can do everything on paper that we're going to be doing for quite a while, actually. Just beware that you don't have undo, and you're not going to really be able to paint with like pencil or pen, right? So in later sessions, we'll be like going over things and sort of covering over, painting over, like our stuff over and over again as we're kind of fleshing out compositions, and that's not really something that you can do with like ink, right? Um, I would suggest that if you really want to go that route, just to cave and buy like a tablet or a tablet computer with stylus, so that you can really like follow exactly what we're doing. Now, if you've done painting, you've probably already experienced this, and you could paint along if you have a setup that allows you to do some painting. Um, but of course, in the end, it's just not going to be the same tool, the same medium. So I would really suggest, uh, you know, making the call when you get to the point where you decide that you want to do digital art stuff. Um, it's definitely something you have to invest in to get started. You have to have technology, you have to have software. So it's definitely going to cost some money, unfortunately. um, uh, but the good thing is that it's uh, it's just the basics that you need. You just need Photoshop. You just need you don't even need Photoshop. You just need some kind of software. There's free software like GIMP, and you just need like a tablet with a stylus with pressure sensitivity. And you can get that for less than $100. So yeah, I would say look into it and give it a go if you kind of like where it goes for you. Look into it on YouTube. Like look into a bunch of videos, and who knows? Maybe you'll end up liking it. Um, yeah, here we go. Just making a new document here. Went to File New. Um, I just have all this stuff saved from in the past when I was messing around with stuff, and I honestly, I still haven't figured out, what resolutions and sizes work for me. So this is just something. This is a huge canvas, maybe too big. Maybe we should go with maybe like even this one is probably fine. I just don't want white. I just want white as the background there. There we go. Later gray will be better, but for now we'll just go with white. And we're gonna just create this. And so you see we have this huge. It's actually not really huge on my screen. It's 100%, but my screen has a pretty large resolution. These Surface Books have a large one. So yeah, here we are. This is a canvas. That's what this box is called. It's called your canvas. This is in Photoshop, of course. And uh, I've got my Surface Book propped up, sort of in this like easel mode of sorts. The tablet part comes off and twists around and stuff. So I've got that. I'm using that for my touch screen, and then I've got a second monitor hooked up to it, so I can do a bunch of cool stuff. I've got an external keyboard, which I would suggest if you ever get a Surface Book because it's super useful for getting set up wherever to do artwork. Having that full keyboard, and I've also got a mouse that I'm actually using right now. It does have touch, like I can use touch. I'm using, touch right now. It's of course not really doing anything. I don't think that the touch works with Photoshop. Doesn't seem like the regular touch does. You have to use the stylus. So if I use a stylus, you can see now I'm making marks. Now my Surface Book has some performance issues because it's like not the highest model and it's old. So we're gonna see that unfortunately. It's gonna lag a little bit, and I think the stream is gonna lag. It's gonna be a little choppy, and so we'll just kind of have to deal with that as we go through it, and hopefully we can you know get it sorted eventually. Um, so yeah. Anyway, this is Photoshop, and we've got all these, they call them palettes around the screen. We've got a palette at the top, palette at the left, palettes at the right, all these buttons and stuff. And you're probably thinking like, oh my God, there's too many options here. I'm going to mess something up. You don't really need to worry about it. Um, uh, you're not actually going to use a lot just starting out. It's pretty simple, right? Um, We've got our canvas. That was under File New. That was easy to get to, right? All the options are pretty straightforward there. You just want to size. You want to set the color to like white for now. Later we'll try other colors. Um, yeah, and I'm just gonna poke someone real quick and see if they can join because that'd be nice. So I don't have an audience on YouTube, unfortunately, not yet. So I'm speaking into the void. Ugh, we'll see if someone joins me. Anyway, um, yeah. So the thing to know about Photoshop is that it's got palettes which are really useful. It's also got different tools, and depending on what tool you're using, you get a completely different feature set, and like the shortcuts work differently and everything. So, like for example, right now I've got the selector selected, so my right click options are these. But if I want the brush, and you can hit B, it tells you on the tooltip B is the shortcut to do brush. So if you hit B, it switches to brush. You can see my brush tip there. You'll probably see like a crosshair because you have to set it in your options if you haven't done that already. And if you right click with this, you see you have a completely different right click interface. Um, and so, uh, and so let me snooze these notifications. Okay. Hopefully we won't get disturbed. So, let's take a look at these, right? So we've got different brushes here, and I set these up a while ago. I think I stole some. I didn't really steal them. They offer them for download from Noah Bradley, and I think Control Paint, maybe. I'm not sure. Um, and yeah, we can use these to do, you can use the regular brush to do whatever you want with Photoshop. You don't need, fancy brushes to do stuff. Like this is just a round brush, right? And if I use this, you can see I've got the pressure sensitivity. That's one thing, right? But I actually don't want pressure sensitivity right now. What I want is, and if you go, you see it in the right side here, tool presets, brushes. If you click this and you go to, it may not look like this in your interface, mind you. I've customized this a little bit, but you can view the windows in here. If you go to brushes, brush settings, we actually want to go to brush settings. Um, let me get back to that brush settings, and you can actually set the options here for them. So, for example, if you don't want opacity, I'm not sure if it's pronounced opacity or opacity, one or the other, probably opacity. If you don't want that connected to the pressure sensitivity, you can turn that off. You can turn off the flow with the pressure sensitivity. Um, and you can of course go to uh, you can of course go to this and go to size jitter. I think this is it. No, that's not it. Where is it? I want to find the shape dynamics. Size. Honestly, not sure where to find this. It's, uh, let's see if I can find it. Just gonna start clicking things. um, I thought it was in here, honestly. Well, let's try it. I feel like it's working a little bit, but not a lot, right? I think we want a little bit more. Maybe we can lower this. Oh, there we go. That's what we want, right? So you see it there. Size jitter, pin pressure, turn that minimum down a lot. Let's get a nice taper going there. And so now, if we use our brush, you can see we've got kind of the snake tail taper, disturbing shapes. I'm sorry if you do not like snakes because I just did that. Okay, so I'm just selecting and deleting. I'm on the background layer, and that starts out as locked. And so if you delete on that, it may crash your Photoshop like I did. or it will when it deletes, it'll actually put in this background color. So if it's white and your background color is white, it'll put in white, and that's pretty useful if you're just trying to maintain a layer like this. Um, but we're actually gonna now collapse this, and so we've got our brush what we need it to be, and if you look at my size here, let's see, let's get back to brush. B is the shortcut for brush. You see my size is actually kind of big. That big circle, you see that? That's pretty big for a brush. So let's just click that and let's just take that down quite a bit. There are shortcut keys for this. I think it's these brackets. Yeah, they increase the size. So the square brackets on your keyboard that are kind of up and to the left of your enter key on your keyboard, those left and right, they increase the size. And I believe that if you I believe there are shortcuts to do the softness and hardness as well, but honestly, I don't know those off the top of my head. But yeah, so we can go really tiny here, and now we're just going to be doing little lines that are more drawy lines, and we're actually going to try and switch this up as we're kind of working today. So if I doodle something and I don't like, I can undo that with a Control Z. We're going to try not to use this today. And then if you really want to go back, you do Alt Control Z, and that'll take you through your history back. History is a thing you can view in Photoshop. Um, it's under yeah, I have it here on the side. I would really suggest if you find yourself using panels a lot, get them pinned on the side and just remove all the other junk that you don't use, because you don't want all that crap open. This is useful because if you know you want to go back to a certain state, you can just jump back to that state. It's pretty easy. Um, and yeah, you can do stuff like this, which I've never used, but I'm sure it can be useful. And I'm sure this is useful as well. Sort of versioning yourself a little bit. This is sort of like branching and programming in a way. Yeah, so try stuff. um, and of course, if you're working from a saved document, if you use revert, it'll go back to the very start. Now, this is a new unsaved document, so it doesn't have that option activated. All right, so today we're going to be doing Notan compositions. And these are very simple exercises, and you can do them. There's definitely an advanced way to do these exercises where you study something and you do like a detailed notan breakdown. But basically all it is, and this is why it's so simple and so easy, and why anyone can really do these, is that it's just two tones, right? And so like right now I have notan tones here, black and white, and I could just start right now. Like if I'd use this whole canvas to do Notan, I'd probably want a bigger brush size. We're not going to do this later on, but you just like add in shapes and squiggles, and you're just going to try and create some kind of composition with these. It doesn't have to be anything real. It can live in the abstract, and you just want to think about flow, flow uh you want to think about balance, and kind of later, much later, you'll think about depth. um but for now, don't worry about depth, because, uh, believe it or not, depth is something that, it can occur by accident. Like right here, I feel like I've got some accidental depth. This kind of looks like this shape here is the midground, right? It kind of looks like this is the foreground. It kind of looks like this is the background. But it was an accident, right? But you'll accidentally stumble into it like all the time. Just like you'll accidentally get balance, you'll accidentally get, you know, everything. So yeah, let's go back. Right, here we go. Okay, but so we're doing Notan, right? And And we want to do a lot of these because it's something that you do quickly and you do a lot of them, and it kind of gives you a bunch of results. And later when you're doing like artwork pieces where like composition matters, starting with Notan with kind of that vague idea of what you want to represent, kind of being in your mind and just notanning away with the value and nothing else, just value and shape. It can be really good for kind of giving you options and kind of, avoiding the stress of having to think about, oh God, where's things going to be? How do I know if my if my art is going to be interesting? You have a lot less of that stress if you just focus on composition at the very start. And it's not like I know composition is a long word and it's an arty word, but believe it or not, composition is really easy and you can learn composition. There's no talent involved in competition, not really. And the thing with art is that, it's it's not a talent thing. It's really a practice thing. You practice and you get better. And that's really all there is to it. And so um, you'll see me be a really crappy artist because I don't practice. And when you see me good, it's because I practiced in the past. And there is a technical side to it. There is a learning curve. There is system mastery involved in learning to art. You have to learn to use the tools, and that's just something that you have to, you know, get the instruction on, whether that's reading tutorials or following videos online or, sitting with people and learning, taking classes. There's lots of different ways to learn the techniques to accomplishing the result. But the result, what you're putting down, that is, something that only gets better with practice. So, um, don't worry about not being an artist because believe it or not, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a construct. And it's just a thing that you do and you get better at it when you practice. You get better at, getting to the result faster, and with less of a headache. And that's it. Some people, I'll grant, some people maybe, are just naturally more apt for the coordination, the representation of form. Of course, there are people with eidetic memories. There's strange and wonderful manifestations of of the brain power that allow people to kind of do extraordinary things with pen and paper. And that stuff's wonderful, but that is very much an exception. Like 99.9% of the world is going to do exactly what we're going to be doing here in order to get better at art. So yeah, I would just, pick up your pen, pick up your stylus. You have to get started, and that's the only way you're going to learn anything. So let's see. That's the history pane. We got our navigator. We want that up. Color. We're not going to use color really. We may actually, bring in bring in these tones a little bit. Black and white are great, and Notan is usually done in black and white. But the thing is, later we're going to try and avoid those harsh black and white colors. I'm not saying you'll never use them. I mean, there's nothing absolute in the world, um, unless it's science. But in this case, in the realm of art, sometimes you'll use black and white, but in general, we want to work with the spectrum of value later. It says B. It might actually be better if we stick to a grayscale ramp. Well, I thought I knew what I was doing. Maybe I don't. Oh, here we go. Grayscale. There we go. This is nice. So here. we can select our colors. Here we go. We got a gray and a gray. Gray is great. You don't know it, but gray is probably the most important color if you think of it as color. It's not, so technically all colors, because white is all colors, and in digital painting, white is all colors. If you're using regular paints, black is all colors. It's a strange way that they reverse between digital and regular. Um, in traditional painting with paintbrushes, well, black is when you mix all the colors together. You may have, if your colors don't get deep in value, they'll end up being gray. Probably brown because it's kinda hard to get to the gray, but, there'll be some kinda gray tone if you mix all the traditional paints together. But digitally, well, the way light works is that the white is all the colors, and even your screen, when it shows white, it's showing the pixel has all 3 colors activated. Each color has its own little kind of, think of it as like a little tiny lamp of each color, and they're all on that pixel, and that's why it looks white. And if you switch to a blue color, like if I switch to, this bright blue, then oh, sorry, I was on the wrong one. Let's back that up. Shift X will switch between these 2. We'll use that a lot. So these blue on these pixels, my monitor is turning off, probably almost completely. It's turning off the green and the red. I think they're called diodes, but honestly, I'm not sure. It's turning them off to make blue from the white. And when you see the dark color on the side, if you see black, that is that is actually nothing. Nothing is on. And this is why it's so hard for a lot of screens to get true black, is because even those bits of the screen where nothing is turned on, they still catch some of that other light. And so it's really hard to get an absence of light altogether on your screen, and that's why it's a thing to buy TVs that are good at that. But yeah, don't worry, you'll uh, you'll be fine with whatever you've got. So I'm again gonna switch to my thing and delete this and wait for it to load because it's really slow for some reason. Um, Checking on my friends. Okay, you may be joining soon. Good. Um, yeah, basically, I'm just looking for people to join so we can chat about what we're doing here and how everyone kind of approaches, art and the things that we'll be doing in these casual arting live streams. We'll talk about different people's perspectives on these things, whether they ever did them, whether they think they should. I would say Notan could be useful for anyone. I mean, um, I didn't do Notan when I was in school, but I did something very similar. What I did in school was, and I guess in a way it was Notan, but I did a bunch of scribbles. Oh, I'm not on brush. Let me get to brush. I uh, I did a bunch of scribbles, and from these scribbles, what I would do is I would try and make a composition by filling in these shapes with value. And so I'd fill these in, and that's how I would make compositions sometimes. And it's basically the same thing in a way. It's a little more abstract because you're not going to really be able to go to representation automatically if you do it like this. So, and that may be beneficial for some people. If you're trying to avoid drawing the same thing you draw all the time, but you want to focus on composition, maybe you can do some weird squiggle fill things and see what you come up with. Now, I don't think this is terribly interesting composition wise. I mean, it's kind of a pattern. It's like a checkerboard kind of thing going on here. But anyway, that's a thing you can do. what we want to do is we want to go to our layers, right? So here we've got over here in the bottom right corner of the screen, got our background layer, and that's cool. That background layer, you can stay there. Maybe we'll change its color. I'm gendering the background layer. That's right. Okay, here we go. I'm sorry, background layer. We're not actually going to use you. You're going to stay in the background. What we're going to do is we have a new layer now, and we are going to basically need a bunch of little frames. So this is fine. It's a box, and we could doodle around here all we want. But if we want to do a lot of exercises, we want a lot of little boxes, and we're not gonna get fancy. These are just gonna be little boxes, and if we have our brush tool, and straight lines might be kind of hard. Oh, am I joined? I think I
You
am.
are. Oh. Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. So I just want to give you a heads up that this is live
That's cool. I'm into
and
it.
broadcast. So you are on the YouTubes. So welcome. This is Jesse, and he's amazing. If anyone watches this later, he did an artwork for I make role-playing games, and I wrote one called Pack of Strays, and he did the artwork for it. And it's amazing, and you can check it out if you go to uh, the drive-through for the Gauntlet. And I don't have that address handy, but the website for the Gauntlet is gauntlet-rpg.com, and you can find all the info for everything the Gauntlet does through there. And yeah, Jesse did art for Pack of Strays, which was published in the Gauntlet's RPG zine called Codex, in the issue called Codex Beasts. And he's also doing the art for the Pack of Strays expansion I wrote that's going to be in Codex Moonlight, which comes out in less than a day. So
Yeah, very soon now. Yeah.
yes. And so we're very fortunate in the Gauntlet community, which this isn't really affiliated with this hangout, but we're all very fortunate to be very close, and we happen to have some extraordinary talent in the Gauntlet community, including Jesse here, who's a very talented artist, and we have many talented designers and players, and just people who love to produce not just entertainment, but they love to produce experience. There's nothing like it, and it's just the most positive thing you can have, to have a community like that. And so that's kind of where I'm branching this hangout thing from, that I'm calling casual arting. And I'm just inviting people in the Gauntlet because they're cool. So I invited.
Well, I'm happy to be a guest star, so thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, guest star implies stardom is a thing for me, and it's not. So I've got all my eight subscribers, and yeah.
Hey, you have to start somewhere. So 8 sounds good to me.
Yeah. Definitely. Sounds like a great start. I'm sure they'll all look at my channel and be like, why is he talking about art now? He never did art stuff. But yeah. So I've
cool.
kind
what are you working on?
I'm about to get going on some Notan compositions, just practicing and kind of talking about, like, how you do some simple brush stuff in Photoshop. I've kind of gone on a little bit already. But I just want to ask you, like, I talked about my setup. I use the Surface Book, and that you can get a pen to use with that, a stylus, and it's got like a tablet screen. It's really great for doing artwork on. I've done a couple pieces of artwork on it. I don't do art very often, unfortunately, but I've also got like an external keyboard and mouse for it. So I've got kind of like the full setup that I use,
like a proper laptop, essentially.
It's like I can like turn the screen around on it and use like a different keyboard. So I don't have to use the short laptop keyboard. So I've got like an external keyboard, which is great. And so this is my setup. I have the Adobe CC Creative Cloud subscription, which includes Photoshop. but you can just get Photoshop on its own, I believe. What do you use for your artwork?
So my setup is not that dissimilar from yours in some ways, though I'm in the Mac side of the world. So I'm also I use Photoshop and Illustrator pretty evenly, depending on what I'm illustrating and what I'm working on.
Right.
Otherwise, instead of a stylus and a proper touchscreen, I just use a Wacom tablet. So which
Yeah.
works pretty well for me.
Yeah. And Wacom is actually the easiest entry point into digital art. Now I've got this somewhat fancy, tablet laptop computer, but you don't need a touch screen to do digital art.
Right.
You can just use a, non-screen tablet that has, like the sensors in it to sense the stylus, and that works great. Like 99.9% of digital artists use like a Wacom tablet. So it's you can get them for like $80, probably cheaper than that if you get
Yeah, they're
a
super cheap.
used one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And if digital art is a thing for you, then I wholeheartedly suggest making the investment. I wish when I was like a little wimpy teenager doing artwork that I had gotten a tablet, because I'm pretty sure that if I'd realized, how useful and amazing tablet technology is, stylus technology is for doing digital art, then I would have been like a way ahead already than I am right now. But yeah, so if you're on a Mac, I'm imagining you're using Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Photoshop or Illustrator. I use both of them pretty regularly. I mean, I will say, just like on the digital art side of it, like um, it's worth not it's worth not forgetting like the value of just like pen and paper
Oh yeah.
and being able to scan that in. Like I
Yeah.
do that a fair amount too.
Yeah. That's
Just
that's
because
what
it's
I
nice to have a it's nice to just have a notebook and
Yeah,
scratch things up.
exactly. And that's what I've actually done with like most of my stuff. Even like the most recent stuff I've done is I sketched it out on paper, just because I'm honestly more used to pencil and paper than I am
Mhm.
to using digital tools for drawing. Especially like if I'm drawing, then I'm more inclined to grab a pencil and paper and just sit at a table and work it out.
Yeah.
Uh, and if anyone's following along and you don't have this technology, you can, this exercise, you can do it using pencil and paper. This Notan stuff. It's fine. Um, and there's not going to be a problem with that if you do. Um, just zoom out if I can remember how.
So what's the exercise that you're working on or planning to work
I'm
on?
looking to do some. It's called Notan compositions, and I saw it on. I saw it on the mouse here. I need to stop using my mouse and use my pen. I saw it on okay, there on YouTube. This guy has this channel. Let me see if I can figure out his channel. Um, let's see. Bear with me one moment while I get this guy's name. I really suggest people check him out because I really enjoyed his videos. Let's see. Oh man, this is what happens when you get a playlist that's too big. Um, I don't know if you could hear that audio. Let's hope not. This guy, Amit Dutta. He's great. I'll put his link in the description after this is done. Um, but yeah, his videos are totally awesome and make art a lot less intimidating. And I think that's kind of like one of the core things we're going with these videos is, like to kind of make art a casual thing that you don't need to stress about.
So
Really,
what's the premise behind Notan for
the
those of us
premise,
who are unfamiliar with it?
right?
Sorry if
So
I'm making you repeat yourself.
no worries. I will repeat myself gladly. It is basically the idea that you do composition using two tones. It's not just composition, I should say. It's also representation. Like you can go out and do a landscape in two tones, and that would be Notan. You can even add color, and so long as it's just two value tones, it's considered Notan. I mean, there's even 3 and 4 tone Notan.
And
But
is the premise just to like capture kind of the rough shapes of things and kind of like
yeah,
basically block in elements?
it's exactly, you block in value, in Notan. So if I use my whole screen for one right now, I would just draw like abstract blops, and I would try and like see if I can come up with something pleasing. Composition wise, probably should switch up my brush size a little bit. And it's sort of a good way to train your eye, you know, and your mind, I guess, about, like flow, you know, what might, you know, what might be the way to make people look around your your art, right? Like how do you lead their gaze? And later, like I mentioned this before you got on, but you can like accidentally come across, depth when you're doing these tone exercises, because
Mhm.
like you might suddenly shade this in, and you know might end up making it look like, this kind of looks like it's a path or something, right?
Right.
So you end up kind of creating these structures, and they can even go in to start representing things, and that's okay. But the goal is kind of to avoid focusing on representing things and just focusing on, for these exercises, just composing.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. It reminds me of so I don't know that we've talked about this before, but I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. I went to art school, and one of the things that really stuck with me from being in school was this idea that there are no lines in nature. Like everything that we think of as a line is basically just like the butting together of two surfaces. Like
Uh-huh.
that's what creates that sense of a line. And so I like this exercise because it really reinforces that idea that what you're looking at is kind of abstract shapes that are running up against one another, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's all it is really, is that you were focusing on shape, and definitely abstract. We're not trying to draw anything, right? Or paint anything. We're just we're just gonna, fill in some boxes with some shapes. And I'm using the brush tool here to make some boxes. And these are just you just hold down shift to make straight lines, and it'll make them. You know, this is easy stuff. Uh, if you don't want to actually learn to draw straight lines, and trust me, it's not really a thing that exists. The ability to draw a perfectly straight line, no problem, does not compute. Trust me, like no one can draw straight lines with no problem. It's it's a privilege. So we're just drawing some frames here. Um, just looking to get started on some comps, as we'll call them, as the cool kids call them. They call them comps. and and you'll notice that it's drawing these diagonal lines all over the place. Those are annoying as heck, but once you kind of get used to the shift key, you can instead switch to the shape tool, which, God, if I can find it, probably not.
It's interesting what those diagonal lines do though to like kind of move your eye through the space as
Right.
well.
Yeah, which is cool. Not a little meta because we're looking to use these as frames. But sure. Um Now there's like stuff that's not working in Photoshop for me, which is annoying, but not sure why exactly. My shortcuts aren't working like they were before. Um but yeah, if you zoom in, which you'll probably want to do a bit, um if you want to fix this stuff, you can just press E for your eraser. Oh, and you may be moving still. I'm getting weird performance issues. And you can kind of erase these lines a little bit. And getting to know how to use this is so weird why it's doing this to me. I was just talking to
Yeah,
my roommates. I'm like, maybe I should buy a new one.
yeah, you're on the eraser tool, right? So,
Yeah, and I'm not even doing anything right now, and it's like moving. Okay, let's just zoom out. So let's just use the ones we've got now and just do some Notan compositions. And maybe by tomorrow I'll have figured out the kinks of why it's not working the way I want it to. But all we really need is our little handy dandy brush tool. And remember, you can increase and decrease its size with the bracket keys right above your enter key. It's really useful if you want to splotch in some color. You don't have to use a circle. In fact, I think I'm going to switch and use, maybe I'll use something I got saved here. These chalky ones. These maybe might be more my groove. And you just block in. Of course, this has the problem of having the shading, the what's it called?
the
The
um
transfer setting set to the this needs to be off for what we're doing. So we don't want
oh
opacity
yeah.
jitter. And we don't want flow jitter. And that's good. So we would just want to do solid colors. That's all. And this brush is mostly solid. It's got a little bit of chalkiness. Like if I go over here, you can kind of see. Um, and we just want to do like shapes, kind of random, you know, focusing more on shape than line. Um, and just seeing what comes of it, and go big, go small. Try and stay in your borders. Um, and you can even shift color. If you do shift X, it switches between the foreground and the background. Useful. And so like the idea with this is that you want to, give yourself kind of a balance in what you do with this. And you want to end up with something kind of pleasing to the eye in a way, and it doesn't need to be fancy, and you don't need to sweat it. You just keep going. That's the idea. Um, and in the end, you might come up with something interesting that you could use for artwork, but for now, that's not the goal. I don't know why. I think I'm hitting a button. But yeah, have you done exercises like this in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I still do tons of like thumbnail sketches for things, whether that's trying to figure out a composition like this or um, just to sketch just for the process of like keeping my kind of hand-eye connection fresh. Yeah, I think it's super
Right.
useful.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's actually it's useful, but it's also I think it's, it's nice in a way, right? Because you're not when you're doing these, you're not worried about representing anything. You're just kind
Hmm.
of you're just kind of blocking in tone and, you might end up representing something, but you also may not. And
Yeah,
focusing on composition and seeing what you come up with. Um, and this is actually, not that far off from how like actual intentional thumbnailing works, where
yep,
you're trying to actually accomplish something specific, right? Like
yeah,
if you're doing like a drawing with in like a framed drawing, like a an illustration. Um, a lot of times, it's in a box. It's going to be in a box, on the page or on the screen, uh, and you have to think about, how it can use that space to its advantage, right? Like it's not just, representing the thing. It's also, like delivering the thing in a way.
right.
Um,
Yeah, I think especially with the pieces and codecs, you know when you make the art that it's going to be placed in combination with the text for the game, right? So you
right,
want to think about one, how do you represent that text? And two, how do you create an image that can potentially interact with that text, right? Whether it's
right,
kind of breaking the space or
right.
allowing some placement for a logo or,
Exactly.
those kind of things are things to consider.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, especially with like print design, is that you're not just working with come on, brush, here we go. You're not just working with the artwork itself, right? Like you're
Right.
also contributing to the composition of the text. Like,
Hmm.
the shapes you put on the page, they can use those. They can use your white space or your non-focal space as places to put, the content that you read. And so it kind of becomes
Hmm.
almost like you're reading within the artwork in a way.
Right.
Because believe it or not, when you're doing composition, where you don't put stuff is just as important as where you do put stuff. Like if I intentionally don't use much of one side of this box, you know, that side becomes a non-focal point, possibly, not always. Um, and wherever there is a a focal point, that is not where they're going to put text.
Right.
It's going to be where there is
Hopefully
not
not.
focal point. Hopefully not, right? Um, like if this box here that I just did, this one right here, if this was artwork, I could kind of see, like maybe this is like a cave and this is rocks and this is maybe a person and over here this could be like maybe this is water or something. Like you could kind of see that in
Yeah,
there.
sure.
This is the cave wall. I mean, they could put text here. This could be text. They could also put text, like maybe here a bit, because the person is the focal point.
Right.
And that's, and this water down here in this corner, like right here, oh, that's white, right here. This is also kind of a focal point. Like I feel like our focal points are kind of in this backward C shape here. That's our flow. And so if they put text in anywhere, it's going to be where that's not in the flow. So it's going to be like in this corner or on this side. And so, I mean, believe it or not, it really is, like composition matters, especially, like in print. If you want your art to really encompass the game or whatever you're doing it for, you want to leave room for the text to kind of work its way into your art. Does that sound right?
Yep, that's you got it. I don't think I could say it better.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like it's hard to do this kind of composition. It's just keeping these things in mind while you doodle, right? So, I want to make sure that when I'm executing something, that I am making sure that I'm thinking about flow and not neglecting that idea, right? Like that I'm I'm trying to achieve something that has flow, that has focal points. And who knows what I'll come up with. I feel like I'm drawing trees a lot, but but who knows? You might come up with something representative doing this exercise, but you might also just, make something that flows kind of,
What's
in a
interesting is like that the piece that you're working on right now, you could
right.
see that as a tree, but like I now am very much seeing a face from the side. Like there's that black spot in the middle is like an eye, and there's a nose to the left of that, and then a mouth underneath. You see that?
Are you talking about, where's the mouth at? You said the mouth is
Okay. So what you're over right now is the eye.
oh, that's the
Like it's
eye,
a face
okay.
looking left. Okay. And then I
Oh,
see a
right.
nose, and then
Are you talking about
that
this
kind of
little
line.
tiny bit right here? This little
Uh,
maybe not.
no. I have to like take a screenshot of it and send you what I'm seeing.
It's interesting because our brain wants to see those things. And
Yeah.
so it's like looking in the clouds, you're drawing glops and scribbles, and your brain is like, that's not a glop scribble, that's a thing.
Yep.
Um, and the reality is it's both. It's a glop
Yeah.
scribble and a thing.
Yeah. Our brains want to make sense of the world and like find the patterns and find the recognizable things, right? So it's going to be
Yeah,
like, oh, that's a tree. Oh, that's a face. Oh, that's a sunset.
right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And you have to listen to it sometimes. And other times you can kind of be like, no, I don't want to see that, so I'm gonna destroy
Shut
it.
up, brain.
Like this looked like a gun to me, so I'm like, let's get rid of that.
Yeah.
And let's something like this, like a scribble. And so you might accidentally come into depth sometimes when you're doing this. Like I feel like this looks like it's going this way, right? Like I
Hmm.
get this feeling that I'm looking at some kind of landscape or oil spill or something that is like splooshing off into the distance, and that's a visual trick. But believe it or not, when you're doing more detailed thumbnails later, you're going to be trying to do that on purpose. Um, and yeah, it's a cool little thing to realize that you can do pretty easily once you kind of get there. Um, and of course, we have this differently sized frame here, which is huge, which we're going to try and do some kind of composition with. And let's see what we come up with here. And I'm being kind of bad. I think it'd be ideal to kind of stay in the frames of these a bit, kind of going out of them, and that's gonna break up the it's going to kind of spill our composition over into spaces which aren't as controlled. Um, which, believe it or not, even though this is kind of a bunch of scribbles, there is a control element to it, in that we're trying to accomplish something with them. Um, and so professionally, if you're using these things, you know what a lot of professionals do when they do like concept artwork is they start with something that's not far from this. You know, they do a lot of them will do like value sketches of their work where they use maybe 2 or 3 more values than this. So instead of
Mm,
using 2, they'd use like, 4 to 5 values, and they would basically, if you start with your darkest value in the front, like if I do this in the very front, this is just on the side here with no frame. Like say this is a tree, very badly drawn tree. This is some kind of branch thing in the front. If I want to draw something behind that, I would just go a little bit lighter, and then suddenly everything I draw here looks like it's a little further, you know, than what I'm drawing right now. Just by the matter of it being, you know, slightly slightly above or overlapping in a way. And yeah, now it looks like there's a bunch of bushes right here behind this tree and this stump thing. And that's how a lot of artists will do their value sketches is they're just overlapping shapes like this to kind of create the illusion of depth, and it's just value. That's all it is. And I think I'll focus more on this in another video. This idea of creating thumbnail sketches types things, value depth sketches. Yeah, for now I kind of want to focus on our good old Notan thing. And you're gonna see me erase this, and I'm sure some people out there will be like, "Why are you erasing your beautiful artwork?" Well, that's the other part of this is that you're not trying to keep anything right now. Um, you're you really want to learn to focus on relaxing when you do this, right? I know that sounds like a bit of a a conflict, relaxing while you focus. But the idea is that when you do these, you're not really you're not really thinking super hard about what you're doing. You're just focusing on, doodling, keeping the pen on the surface and, seeing what comes out and trying to appreciate it and um maybe increase its effect somehow, um, to make it, more enticing, more have it give it more flow, give it more balance. Figure out what you can do to make it just a little bit better than what it is right now. And that's basically, like all that Notan really comes down to is just these little exercises of flow and balance and accidental depth that maybe you can increase if you try. But yeah, I would suggest that if anyone wants to practice this, more than kind of what I'm doing here, do like a bunch of these. And that's what the guy that I got this off of, this exercise, he didn't come up with it, of course. It's a common exercise. It's actually Japanese in origin. Um, but do like a ton of these. And you can spit these out really quickly, right? Like you don't have to spend a lot of time doing, a Notan exercise. You can just, spit them out really quickly and just, get into the flow. I think I did something with my brush. There we go.
cool. These are really great.
Yeah. I I'm thinking that, with these streams going forward, maybe my brush will work. um, Let me see. You have a selection on. No, that's so weird. It's like, "No, you can't use your brush."
If you just hit the B key, will it switch to brush?
Oh, I'm on eraser. Oh my god, you're right. I don't know how I got to eraser. Jeez. Oh, that's an eraser. Ah, okay. Good to know, good to know. Okay, so here we are. Oh, we're on eraser again. Keep messing that up.
I'm gonna hop off the stream here in a second,
Cool.
but
Yeah.
thanks for having me on. It's fun to watch the process.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll get you on again, and we can hear your thoughts on other things, 'cause I'm gonna kind
Sounds
of
good.
move through different subjects going forward, so, um yeah, yeah, I'm definitely,
Awesome.
like, totally curious about what you think about everything. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I would be happy to hop on again. So
sounds
cool.
great. You have a good night, alright?
You too. Talk soon.
Yep,
Bye.
bye. So that was Jesse. I'm really happy he joined us. He's like, when I say I'm not actually a professional artist, he is actually a professional artist, and, yeah, that's that's who we want to that's who we wanna hear from because, if you casually do art, that's great, and you should casually do art, but you should also learn the best practices, and who knows the best practices? It's gonna be people like Jesse, and so I'm absolutely sure that if we get him on more of these little hangouts, that he will teach us a ton of stuff, which will be amazing. I am really looking forward to that. And just ignore these big ugly boxes, these big ugly arrows. We'll try to avoid them. Oh, I did a thing there. I wonder if my elbow is like hitting something here. There's a lot more that I kind of want to do with shortcuts that it's not letting me do. Like it doesn't want me to zoom the way that I usually do. I thought it was control space and you hold it, but it's doing a drag. Hmm. So weird. The other thing you can do is if you click and then you hold shift and click again, that will do a straight line in any direction, which is cool, if you're trying to draw a shape. But for our boxes here, we actually use straight horizontal and vertical lines. Now you can do Notan in any shape, but if you start using different shapes, then the shape itself becomes like a composition element. Like even rectangle does, but I think we should avoid that right now and just try and, you know, do cool things with just rectangles. And we can have some fancy ones like this. That's going to be interesting. Um, but yeah, just hold shift with your brush tool and accidentally pull up other things like I did. B to get back. Looks like it got froze on there a little bit. That's weird. Maybe I should just buy a new one. It's like the struggle is real. The struggle is real. And so here we go. We've got some more frames. Let's just add more. We'll do a little one here because I want to do another big one. I'm getting a little sloppy. We can do. I should let go more. There we go. We'll just do a few more. So if you use the shift thing, you just got to remember you got to pick up your brush in order for it to do them. And you're going to get all these extra stray hairs going all over the place. But, we can live with those. Those are going to influence our compositions. But there's no reason why we can't deal with those, being an element. They're kind of random. We didn't mean to do them. So yeah, here we got some more frames to work with. And let's just do some comps with these, right? So I'm gonna actually stay on this boring circular brush because I think this is what most of you are gonna be using. This regular brush. It's just a circle. It's called a hard brush, hard circle brush. And like I said, use these keys to increase and decrease its size. Let's try just putting dots in, and seeing if we can come up with, and this is just my pressure sensitivity control on the side. See if we can come up with an interesting composition just by pecking in a bunch of dots, right? And just change the size a little bit. And some circles. I feel like this is kind of interesting. Yeah, I'm living for it. I think it's great. Now, I made a mistake here, and you'll probably notice I'm using black and white. And how did I get here? Well, if you hold Alt, you can color pick, and then, like this.
Haircut. I don't know if you want one.
Okay, sorry, my roommate barged in. So yeah, we're just gonna go a little bit longer here, and like I said, dots. And so like we did these here, right? Well, you can actually do dots on top of dots. There's no rule saying that you have to do only one color on top of another. That's kind of interesting. So you can keep doing that, and Shift X is these. Just see what comes from it, right? It's good to think of Notan as a result and not like a specific way of doing something. So it's not that you have to scribble. It's not that you have to blot. It's just two tones and achieving composition with them, right? I feel like this is a little better with something going on here. It's kind of interesting. I feel like this looks sort of like bubbles, I guess, in a way, which makes sense. It's circles, and circles look like bubbles. And so you can just keep this up and see what you come up with. And of course, don't be afraid to increase and decrease your size. You can really look at it and see what happens. Yeah. This is just pecking. And that's interesting. And I would just beware, I think, doing these, there is the risk of creating something that, you're trying to make an abstract art piece. And, with Notan, the goal is not to make an abstract art piece. The goal is to make an interesting composition using abstract shapes. And, these little dots, believe it or not, they are shapes, and we're trying to make compositions using them. We are not trying to make some full, into piece. Even if you think this might look nice on your wall, is not my intention. And best keep that in mind. Don't spend too much time on these. Get on to the next one. In fact, I will do that. Now this one, let's try and play with the center more and see if we can achieve a composition. Just that. Now, you'll learn is that centering is really hard to compose in an interesting way. Now, it really plays with not having balance, right? Because if you are working in the center of your frame, it's floating. So it may serve you to, connect it up somewhere. Connect it somewhere. Get it attached to the side of the frame somehow. And then you can find. Oof, I clicked on something. Let's cancel that. You can find the flow from there. Right? Something going on here. Let's just abstract. All right, so I think I've done enough of these dot ones. Let's get back to doing, basic stuff. Keep using our tool. All right. Let's try doing some, shapes, right? Let's think about this for a bit. You can just do shapes and see what you come up with. Now we've done scribbly lines, we've done dots. This is something that we haven't done. I would suggest that you try it. Try taking chunks out of things. Try drawing a line through something. Of course, I feel like I'm looking at a face and I want to destroy that because I don't want to be looking at a face. Try connecting shapes, right? Try adding shapes later. Do a lot with this. Try playing with scale, like this. Make a shape bigger than another shape. You can definitely give that a go. You might think this looks like some giant alien worm creature, and you'd be right, but it's also just a shape. And so the goal is really, are you coming up with an interesting flow, right? Do you think you've got it going on? And, that can be, you can do that completely with shapes. Obviously, I'm right clicking something. Seriously. Just trying to draw a little circle. Thank you. Right? So you do stuff like that. Now, I would really suggest trying different basic shapes and seeing what you come up with. Right? Like, not just circles, not just triangles. Do them all. Do some squares. even squares can add to composition. And you know, you can do planes, right? And we'll do more of this later. Not today. Not today. But later. Later we'll do more. We'll do more planes later. But you can see this is creating depth just by having that plane in there. It looks like it's going that way, laying on the ground or something. And that's what I was talking about before, you know, the accidental effect of that. And of course, if you do something like this afterwards, it almost looks like there's something white on top of that plane that's standing there. Done it? Or if I do this, it looks like that line is on top or in front of both of those things, right? And that's the depth trick of overlap. And we'll get into that more later, but it's a thing. It's a thing. So let's just, for our last ones here, you know, I want to find our dang rectangle tool. Let's see if I can. Let's grab our handy dandy mouse. I believe it's here. Yes. Yes, rectangle. Here we go. We want to fill it with our swatch. Really? You won't let me grab my own colors? There we go. And we want it to be, let's do pixels. We don't need to adjust this afterwards. So I want to do some doodles. Oh, of course. Let's undo that. I want to do some doodles on top of my background color or my dark color, because you should get practice on switching it up. Like, it's two-tone. It's not one tone on top of the other, not one specific one. It's just you work with both tones and you try to do it equally. So all these boxes, we are going to do them like this. There we go. And we've just got about 5 minutes left here, but let's give it a shot, right? Okay. So let's just do some more of these shape ones. And I think for the next one, what I'll do is I'll figure out, you know, what's going on with my computer, and we can look at, you know, actually creating, you know, more layers and using the layer functionality more to help keep us in the boxes, because that's going to be beneficial if you can actually learn how to do that. You know, you want to have some constraint going on. Let's see. Really want the zoom to work. Does not work. I don't get it. I feel like it was just working. Anyway, if you do zoom in, you see you have this little navigator here. You can go exactly where you want to be. So let's try and do something with this. Oh, we have this problem again. Does not like it. Does not want us to use our brush tool when we are zoomed in. Don't get it. Okay, let's zoom out. Gonna do it real tiny here. I think we can zoom in a little bit more. Let's do 100%. Let's do some triangles. And let's try doing some square diamond shapes in here. And you may be thinking, Philip, this is not interesting, and you'd be right, but we can fix it. You see, nothing is sacred when you're figuring out composition. That's important to keep in mind. Is if you're doing composition, you don't want to be doing anything else. You don't want to be rendering anything. Don't get into detail. But focus on the compositional elements and get those working. You know, play with achieving depth. Play with breaking things up. You know, even like break your dang rules. Like I said, I was going to do shapes. I feel like that's better. Maybe I can. That looks pretty good. Yeah, I kind of like that now. Let's get back to our original brush. Let's actually stick with this one. Let's just do some squiggles now. Okay. All right. That's something. And you have your opposite as well. Create those compositions. Get them going. Get that effect. You know, these are real simple. I mean, anyone can do these. So don't sweat that. Think about flow. Think about where it is going. Cool. You know, think about how you can even use line, but I would say don't think of line as line. Think of it as another kind of shape, right? Like we're not drawing something here. And we are drawing the shapes of lines of different thicknesses, different orientations, and we're achieving an effect. right? You can also, experiment with indicating form. With these circles, I'm having the edges kind of taper into form a little bit, right? And, we can do our little dots, and suddenly I've got space. So that was the thing that happened. And for our last one, maybe we should just do squiggles. I like squiggles. I'm going to switch to my other brush. There we go. I like this one. I think this one has some, opacity. That's okay. We can just blotch in some thick color and think about our shape, right? What shape are we indicating? Even though the edges aren't hard, we're still indicating a shape. And that's what we're going for. We want to indicate shape. And of course, we're getting a depth illusion happening here now. And yeah, I mean, that's good. That's a good workout, a good exercise in composition is just doing a bunch of these. And then some of these you might look at and you may be like, oh, you know what? I mean, I feel like, if I'm on here and if I can get to my zoom tool, ooh, here we go. I may be like, you know what? This, I want to turn that into a painting. And you can do that. You can do that. But, if you practice the composition, you're gonna realize what you're going for with it. You're gonna know, I want to make this one a painting because of this, right? Like, I really like how this shape frames this middle shape. How there's this flow going on. I feel like my eyes are being led around this, and maybe I'm seeing a figure here. Maybe I'm seeing water here. Maybe it's something else entirely. But I like it. So you might think to yourself, I'm going to go with this one. And that is how, a lot of artists work out compositions is they do these little value scribbles and they figure out, like, okay, how can I increase the flow? How can I indicate focal points? And how can I have balance, the right kind of balance? Maybe I don't want balance. And then working from there. So I hope that everyone can have fun with these. And if you happen to make any, feel free to link to them in the comments, and I'd love to see them. And in the future, maybe we'll do critiques and stuff like that. And honestly, this is the kind of thing that you don't need nobody to critique you on. It's really hard to mess these up. You're just looking to create compositions with shapes and not trying to represent stuff. Now, you may end up doing that, just not trying to. So with that, I hope everyone has a good night, and I'll see you next time, hopefully soon. Bye.